Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Astrology. We're so excited to be here, and yeah, it's a morning for sure. um, So I'm Megan. I'm here with our teachers Julie and Elle today. I'll tell you a little bit about the Academy of Logic and Light and turn the time over to them. So we're a community educational platform that provides a safe space for people to practice their spirituality without indoctrination. We have monthly meetups on the third Sunday of every month. We have a crystal exchange coming up in December. I'm so excited. So it's kind of like a white elephant gift, but with crystals. So bring your favorite crystal and get one. And I'm really excited with how that's going to be. We'll have a little bit of like crystal education and like kind of talk about different ways to use crystals and take care of them. And then you'll get to, exchange the one you brought for a new one. I'm super excited. We are also on YouTube here, Instagram, TikTok. We have a Facebook group, all under the same name of Academy of Logic and Light. And you can find us at academyoflogicandlight.org. We've got our events listed there as well as our some more information about us. We also have a Patreon. So if you're interested in supporting us over there, we've got some fun benefits for the different tiers. And then if you're interested in teaching with us, you can reach out on social media at the Academy of Logic and Light or at academyoflogicandlight@gmail.com. We've got an awesome little form that will help you kind of feel out what you're interested in teaching. And then, yeah, we'll talk with you about all the different options. So we're so excited. We have 2 more teachers kind of slated to start classes in the upcoming year. And we're looking forward to having even more people joining us and getting more classes going. Astrology is our flagship class, but it's, not what we're here to do only. So we are so excited that Julie and Elle have been helping us learn. And we're looking forward to doing more classes like herbalism, as well as in-person classes like basket making, brooms, those kinds of things. So stick with us. We're going to have lots more coming. We're so excited for the new year as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rattle an intro and then turn the time over to our teachers. Thanks, guys.
Hello.
Good morning. Okay. Also fun excitement. Wow, this is going to be a rough morning. Day 5 of no coffee. We're going to make it. Also, in exciting news, in 2024, we will be coming to you live on Mondays in the evenings. So hopefully that is a better time for some of you guys. I know I enjoy our mornings, but I also enjoy sleeping. So
Monday night astrology. Your husband can watch football or your spouse can watch football and you can tune into astrology and it'll be fun. It'll be a different kind of energy. I'm really excited for it. As much fun as it's been being here early in the morning with everyone and just kind of like doing that morning thing, I think we're going to be just a little more awake and, not that I feel like we're always prepared. We're just kind of groggy. But I think it's exciting, and my husband and I are venturing in the trying for another baby, so you get to watch me expand real life. We can start from like episode 1 to like before I have the baby, and we'll just see like how my face blows up. So that's gonna be so
fun. Big things in store for 2024.
Yes. So same concept of what we're doing now. We're gonna go through lessons. It'll be exactly the same. It's literally just moving a different day and a different time to fit our lifestyles, because this year this has been working, and next year it just needs to.
I can't believe 35 classes so far.
I know.
And I think we're bringing in a little bit of the aspects of astrology forecast on Mondays. I think will be something we've talked about.
It's so fun to tune in and kind of see what your week is going to look like. Seeing the transits, things that are coming about. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for the new energy. So, but we're just finishing this year with the mornings because
we've got 2 more weeks of Pluto, which will be super dope. And then something special will be released the day after Christmas. Okay, so as we know, Neptune is the planet of mystery and illusion. Its power is that of imagination. Neptune represents your dream life, your mystic qualities. It is the planet of bewitchment. And I think we talked a lot about it last week that Neptune, because it rotates every 14 years, I believe, that it's a generational planet. So a lot of us that are born in the same areas, we all have the same Neptune, but it's more important what house it's in for you to make it personalized and what your aspects are. And that's what we're covering today, says this little kitty, space kitty. And as we remember, the planet is the what type of energy, the sign is the how, the house is the where, and the aspects are the dynamics. All right, straight into it. First, what is yours in?
So mine is in Capricorn in the first house.
Oh.
So yeah. So mine is very self-endeared. It's very sometimes I have an illusion about myself. I mean,
love you.
I just think of like a lot of times I daydream and I imagine, and I think this is really good for manifesting. So mine is in the first house, and it really is kind of like an illusion of yourself. And so I always daydream about my best self. And I always find that like when I look back at what I daydreamed myself to be like past years, I evolved into that. So it's really cool if you do have your Neptune in the first house, because there is a really great way to manifest yourself, hopefully in a positive way. Hopefully it's a positive aspect, so you're not like seeing yourself doomed, because that again will manifest and you will become that as well. So first house is, what is yours in? Actually, I want to know what your house yours is.
I'm a Sagittarius in the 5th house.
5th house. Nice. So I'm gonna, again, the planets, what your planets are, what your sign is in Neptune is purely based on the aspects of your chart. Now, the house is the direction of where the illusion lies or the intuition lies. And so this could be very beneficial or not as beneficial if you have it in certain houses. Like the 4th house, your Neptune's in the 4th house, depending on the sign, but not as much. You're probably very intuitive. You probably have a very high intuition. If it's something that's less favorable, it could be that you have issues with your thoughts of family, like your thoughts or your perception of family might be a little skewed. I mean, it all depends, but we're going to go through all that. So I do have notes here that I made for this one this time that I actually was like making sure that I could pull up, but I'm not on my phone today, so that makes it a lot easier.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah, last time I was like, eh. So with Neptune in your first house, these are going to be areas of illusion in your body, your approach to life, yourself, and appearance. So if you have something that's very beneficial, a lot of really good aspects, say like you have a lot of trining your Neptune in the first house, then it's going to give you a really positive outlook. It's going to give you a really positive perception on these things. Whereas if it's not, if it's more of your sign is something a little more heavier or maybe not as positive, it could be the opposite. So make sure that you're checking in with yourself. If you have Neptune in the house, make sure you're able to really understand what is real and what is illusion, what is fantasy and what is like real time, because this is that area where it gets kind of gray and it's hard to tell. And so this person tends to be a visionary, idealistic, and sensitive to other people, because you're kind of feeling for other people. It's kind of a placement for you can catch other people's vibe very easily. So and then if you have challenging aspects, then it can be procrastinating, changeable, weak-willed, never satisfied. I will say I am like, I strive for things, and this is my whole general makeup, but I strive for things, and once I get it, I'm like, okay, what's next? And that is just my personality. And it's like this perception, I have this illusion that like once I get the whatever it is that I'm working for, that I'm going to be fulfilled. And I'm a seeker. I'm a seeker. It's part of my makeup, and I'm always going to be seeking things. So I need to look at it as I'm not fulfilled. I need to change that mindset for myself and look at it more as wow, another goal I achieved. Like, how cool. I can do anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the mentality that if you do find yourself like reaching those goals or those illusions that you think are like what you want, and then you're like, I'm not satisfied, maybe alter your perspective on that a little bit. Might be helpful. All right, the second house. So this one is going to be house of possessions, and then I made notes on all of these so that I wasn't so like. A lot of times, this person can have an illusion with money, either that it's overly abundant or underly abundant. Like you could be like one of those people that are like, oh, I've got $5 in my account. Starbucks is Starbucks is now $7 for a latte. $7 in my account, and then you go and you're like, oh, I can spend all 7 of this. Like your perception of money is probably not the best placement, but also you can take that to extremes where you're like, oh, I have $50,000 in the bank. That's not enough. Like that illusion that that's not enough. So it's like, it can be either side of the spectrum depending on your sign in Neptune and along with the aspects that kind of go into your chart. But this is a really heavy placement of like where the illusion lies in your makeup. And so it's kind of the area, it is the area of money, income. This is like daily routines. This is also the area of priorities, habits, your job, and your work ethic. A lot of times I see Neptune in the second house as people who very much value who they are. And that's great. That's a really great thing to have. But if it's, if you're so stuck in your beliefs and what you think is right, I mean, what if it's not right? I could use 1,000 examples, and I'm trying to think of like the least offensive one.
But what fun is that?
I'm just gonna say, I'm just like people that are racist that really truly believe these things. It's an illusion. It's not reality. People are not bad because of their skin color, but there are people who really think that.
Not me checking my ex's chart.
What does he have in it? Yeah. But it's kind of like that. That's an example of an illusion of, you think your integrity is stronger because you're like, I'm so fixed in my ways. I mean, second house, the person is fixed energy. So it's just more or less like try to not be so stuck in your standards. It's good to have have an integrity and have those things, but make sure that you're not check in with yourself and make sure that you're not creating an illusion about that, or you're creating illusion about finances. These are just a couple different areas where this can show up. I'm just trying to give you a broad perspective because it can be financial, it can be possessions, it can be that my house isn't big enough, you're never happy with how big your house is, or comfort here is something that's very important. Like you either have this illusion of what comfort is, or you're too comfortable or not comfortable enough. I mean, there's a lot of areas that this can show up depending on aspects of the sign. But it's one of those placements that it's not my favorite Neptune in the second house because I think it creates a lot of. I think Neptune being the imagination, being creative, it should have that flexibility to be creative, and this one isn't as creative. It's more fixed, stuck in like certain just mindsets.
Okay.
Harder to get out of the mindset.
Good to know.
Right. And then in the third house, so this is the mind, this is thinking, this is communication, this is also siblings, social activities, interests, neighbors, early education. So if you have Neptune in the third house, it can make you very intuitive, artistic, creative. You probably are really good at telling stories. You probably could like hit a story and just like people are like listening and they're into it and they're just like, wow, like this person really is amazing. Also, if it's not favorable art, you could be very discontent. Like you are never satisfied with like the activities in your life. Like you constantly need stimulation. It just causes your illusion of how people should talk to you and how things should go communication wise sometimes are not if you don't feel that they flow as well. And so that's if you have a lot of challenging aspects in your chart with this placement. So But Neptune in the third house, I think that there's a lot of areas, again, with like siblings. You can have this illusion of like how your siblings should act. Also, one of the things is having, I lost it. It's right there.
I hate that.
Circled out. Here it's like today. Man, what was I going to say? It was like a good one too. Let me finish this sentence and then we'll move on to the other. Mercury in Libra, man. It's not a thinker. I mean, it is a thinker, but it's not as flowy as like a Gemini or Virgo. But anyways, being intuitive about siblings and knowing what's going to happen. This is kind of an area where you just kind of like, that sibling that's like, oh, you're going to do this, but you're going to regret it. But or you're going to do this and this is going to be really great. I didn't want that to come off as like negative only, because it could be like, you just know, you have intuition with siblings, like the good things or the bad things. You're just in tune with that. So again, it depends on your other placements. These outer planets are a little more difficult to really like pinpoint, because there are so many things in your chart that affect them that it's like, this is just an overall generalization trying to teach you what it represents. And that way you can kind of use your aspects once you really start to dive into those and be like, oh, okay. So I think the less I say about it might be more. Because I'm just giving a bunch of examples, which, can be depending on your placements.
I like them. I love examples.
I know. Especially when they're entertaining examples. I tend to pull out of my ass a lot. So, no, this one time. All right. Neptune in the fourth house. So this is the house of home, roots, family, self-care, emotions, foundations, mother. That's a big one. Children and women. So anytime you have your Neptune in the fourth house, this direction of illusion, intuition, all the things really directs to all those things I just read. It can be your home, it can be your family, it can even be your self-care routine. It can be so simple as those things. This is really, I think that when you have Neptune in this house and you envision being a mother or a father about this, you fantasize about this as a young age of like what you look like as a parent. And I think that we take things from our parents when we're younger, like, oh, I really liked that my mom did this, or I really hated that my dad did this. And so it's kind of like you take those things and you kind of incorporate it with what you think your parenting style is going to be. And I really, this is kind of that area where you can pull from that and imagine and use your intuition and become a really amazing parent, given that you have really good aspects in this. Challenging points, it can be very confusing and misunderstanding. A lot of family affairs can come up in your life. When you are very naive, I think there's a lot of people out there that believe, oh, because they're family, I have to be nice to them, or I have to give them money, or
No.
That is an illusion. You were born into the family, and I get it. And maybe they've done a lot of things for you growing up, but it is an illusion to feel like you have to do something for someone because they're family. If they're no good, they're no good. It doesn't matter who they are. You have to cut it off. It's for your mental health. This is your life experience. If you have that illusion, you really need to work. And this other things, depending on your chart, this could be something very challenging for you to let those things go. But it is important. It is important that you understand. And then there's some people that are like, yeah, I'm like, I have a sister, and that's it. That's my family, and she has, so I consider them my family. But that's really it. Like I don't have fourth house tendencies. I think my fourth house is empty, which is a whole nother thing in itself. But yeah, it's just not. I never understand. I do understand, but I really like try to help people that I'm just like, their family, you got dealt a shitty hand, dude. Like, move along. Like, it's okay, no one's gonna judge. Stop judging yourself for that.
Yeah.
So, somebody out there needed to hear that today, I guess.
Yeah. Especially around the holidays.
Yeah, fuck your family. Go to the bar. Disrupt some
Oh my.
strangers.
The hair salon ladies, they called the day before Thanksgiving blackout Wednesday or something, like the day before you see your family, you have to go get as drunk as possible. And I'm like, oh, that makes me so sad, but also I'm also at the bar.
You're literally watching it as you're at the bar. You're like, not much for the class, but ours are still married. You know, it makes sense. It makes sense. It worked for me, not really, but it's working. So it's going. All right, 5th house. This is Julie. So this is illusion in romance, love affairs, play, creativity, fertility. Not the first word that I said. Sorry, I can't read. Childlike spirit, joy, self-expression, and drama. So when you have Neptune in this house, it can create illusion in early relationships easily because it's all
Can
about
confirm.
definitely can confirm. But it's really cool, and I'll let you share your story because I think that should be shared. I think the dates that line up with the Neptune retrograde, I think that needs to be shared. But I'm just gonna quickly go into the beginning of relationships. This is kind of that 5th house energy. Is like the beginning, new, and so when something's new, it's so easily to get lost in like the belief that this is something better than what it really is because especially if the planets are all fucked up, then you're really screwed. But creativity, sometimes you can have this this illusion of creativity and how you need to portray it. It might be that you feel like you need to create in a certain way that you think or you like daydream that is better, but reality is that it might be your creativity outlet could be something completely different. So really tap into that, tune into that. Self-expression and drama is the same, like how you express yourself. I think this one is actually one that's really good with intuition as well. It taps into some intuitive aspects, and it's a really good placement to be aware of those initial, you know, relationships, creativity, art, things like that, love affairs, and enjoy loosening up and having a childlike energy. But now let's listen to Julie's story because it's really
Okay, so really weird. After last week's Neptune talk, you had to jump off right before I did the retrograde, and something about it, I was like, I have to look at these Neptune retrograde dates, and when I like can't make this up. Neptune entered pre-retrograde on March 9th of this year. That was the day I met my ex. Like crazy because that was an ex, like that was manifested like to a T, and like almost like too good to be true, and of course it was. And then Neptune stationed retrograde on June 30th, and I left his ass in Texas on June 27th. So very weird.
dates were very aligning. It's so. I think when we start going into like what's going on with the planets, and the things that line up are like wow,
Super weird. Yeah. I was like, tell me you guys don't believe in astrology. That like to the date, that's insane.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
like our trip would have ended on June 30th in Salt Lake City. Like that's kind of where we were like heading, but I couldn't stand one more day. Just had to get out.
Gotta go now.
It was an urgent.
Yes. Whoa.
But yeah, like I mean, it was weird too because every time I had talked to an astrologer, I was like, "Is there anything in my chart like keeping me from the romance that I like desire?" And one of them had talked to me about observing where Neptune was at in my chart with the planet of illusions, and I was like, "All right, mental note, tuck that back away in the back of my head."
Yeah.
So it's real.
It's fascinating when you look at dates of things. I mean, your Saturn return, I think, is one of the biggest ones. I think when you realize, when you pinpoint when your Saturn return is, when it's happening, and then how you shift and how you change and why you got there and how you got there, like what happened in your life to make you shift there. It is fascinating. It is like, I like to call it like a mini like pre-midlife crisis, because truly that's what it is. It's you like being like at this age where you're like, fuck, like your 20s, your teens and your 20s are such an involvement in learning and just going through the shit, Saturn energy, you know, whatever. And once you get that Saturn return, it's like it shifts
Rough.
you. If it doesn't change you, I feel so bad for you at 50. What is it, 58? I don't know. It happens again in your 50s, almost 60s. So I hope you go through the shit and you're 28 when you're like, oh, I skated through. Like, oh, well, you're really gonna hit a midlife crisis at 58 because that shit is gonna suck. And that's what I think happens. When you see people in their midlife crisis, they didn't really get they stayed at that job that they hated because that was like that mentality back at that time, right? And they pushed through and they stayed married or they, you know, whatever it is. And then they hit this age where they're like, what am I doing? Like they didn't really get that first Saturn return, like energy and shift. So it really fucks them up at the end. So not to scare you if you didn't go through your first Saturn return, but you should really
Be prepared.
Yeah. Oh, I went through my shit. I'm like, I'll be chilling at 60, 58. Whatever.
Fingers crossed.
I know I said that. The universe is like, I don't know. It's up for her now that she was so confident.
You better knock on wood.
I'm just kidding. I didn't mean it. It's a lot. So like, ease up on the next one. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Saturn.
Yeah. I love you. Okay, sixth house. So let's go into our sixth house. We're going to recap our sixth house energy. So the sixth house is health, fitness, systems, analytical nature, pets, work habits, organization, sense of usefulness, service given. So I feel like I always hate on the sixth house. I don't hate on the sixth house. I like the sixth house. Okay, I think it's very needed. Do I think it's unfortunate and unlucky? Yes, I do. Like it truly is. The 6th, the 8th, and the 12th house, I always am like, you know, but it's necessary, and it's necessary for you to go through and go through the same whatever. So when I see Neptune in the 6th house, it gives it a very serious, it's like health issues, right? It's this area of like where your health may be really bad or really good. You can be very fit and be obsessed and have this illusion of what your body should look like and how it should feel. And maybe you stick to that. You have a lot of really good aspects working for you. And I love that for you. And I hope that that's the case. But if it's not, this is a person that can really suffer health issues, and maybe not even health issues that would have even created presence in your life if you wouldn't have dwelled on them. I think this is like the hypochondriac placement. If you have Neptune in the 6th house, it's like you get a cough and you're like, oh, it's pneumonia, or you know, you see a mole, which you should always get checked out. But you see a mole and you're like, it's cancer. Like, you know, it's just that mentality. And again, where Neptune and where our fantasies, illusions, daydreaming, whatever, where that lies, we do manifest in our life. It does create manifestation. So just be careful. If you have Neptune in the 6th house, understand that health is very important. And again, I hope you have the positive ones where you're like constantly working out and you're healthy and you're very aware and all the things. But if you don't, just try to tap into that, be aware, and try to not stress yourself out or over analyze what something is. I mean, it can be something very minor that you over analyze and it could just festers into something bigger. It's like if you pick at a scab, it's if you don't pick at it, you leave it alone, it's gonna go away. But the more you pick at it and you dig and you just can't stop, it gets worse, it gets infected, it's created this whole thing. So keep that in mind when you do that in either your health, career, daily routines, like perfecting it, having this illusion of what your day-to-day should look like. It shouldn't be like stressful and overwhelming and creating other issues. So I was just going to look at the good points because I'm trying to stay on like a happy medium. I mean, a desire to help the unfortunate, because you probably know what it feels like to be unfortunate. But that's empathy. That's what we need as a human race. That's where we pull and drive. Like empathy is by understanding through going through it. So that is not the worst thing, you know? I know it doesn't feel like that in this like life, but I can appreciate when I can empathize with people because I've been through shit and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what that feels like. I have something similar, maybe not exactly, but I think that's important. And I think that this house is drawn to things like that. And then the inclined to laziness, merely drifting along. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be too much. Sometimes we just check out. When your Neptune is in this placement, and if it's a lot of negative aspects in your chart, maybe like you have health issue after health issue, and you just can't catch a break, and then other things happen. It's like, I just strongly believe that you're creating those problems because you're manifesting them. I think that the nervousness inside of you is literally causing, like I say, cancer, but like cancerous things to your body, like disease, things like that. So if you have Neptune in the 6th house and you're thriving, great. This isn't so much for you. But if you're not, and you're constantly having these things, like really check in with what you're focusing on. Try to change your perspective. Try to, maybe if you have a lot of health issues, what can you do to make it better? Like work out, eat healthier. Those should be high priorities on your list if you are running into all those issues. Like if you have really shitty health and you constantly drink and you eat whatever you want, you might just want to check that. I mean, if you're okay with it, that's fine. But if you want to better yourself, you might want to just tap into that a little bit.
I have a 6th house stellium, so can confirm all of those things.
Yeah. It's necessary. It's great. But sometimes.
Yeah. Well, as a person with multiple autoimmune diseases.
You've got to work through, you got to figure that out. You've got to, and not that it's your fault. I mean, we weren't taught.
Sometimes it is. Sugar and alcohol. Oh, that's my favorite.
You're like, well, but you are making strides. You're either having dessert or wine. And I think that's a step in the right direction.
You got to choose. Let's just rein it back a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not the queen.
Half a glass of wine, is that like equal?
Yeah.
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 I like it. Okay, so Neptune in the 7th house. So this is relationships, marriage, contracts. I'm going to really touch on contracts here. Business partners, equality sharing, interpersonal style. So I feel like it can be relationships too, illusions in relationships. And this isn't so much of the like the initial, like that 5th house where it's like, oh, the beginning of the relationship. This is long term. So there's that. But contracts, if your Neptune is in the 7th house, I would recommend having attorneys read whatever contracts you're getting yourself into, maybe 2 different ones, because 2 different attorneys, not contracts, but because it's such an illusion of like trust. My computer's doing that weird thing again. Hold on, guys. Remind me later. It's such a area of trusting people, being naive, susceptible to fraud. I mean, this is kind of that area. A lot of times, and even in like marriage or partnerships, if you believe someone, it causes like people to deceive you very easily, and you're like, oh, this is a good person, I think I might marry them, or this is a good person, I think that I'll go into business with them, and it really is a blurred area. So just watch out for that. Make sure if you have a lot of really positive aspects, this may not ever happen to you. Your illusion or fantasy or intuition may be spot on and perfect, and you find the perfect partner, whether that be romantically or platonic. But if you have some squares or some negative aspects there, or challenging aspects, then you really should watch your contracts and legal dealings with people and what you can get into. So hold on a second. Sorry, my husband's out of town and he keeps calling me. Let me just text him. Sorry.
We're live. I'm like going through everyone's charts at the same time.
I know. You go through the charts and just quickly.
Oh.
Normally I would never, but because he's in Texas.
So one of the people that I'm marrying in February has their 7th house. Their Neptune's in the 7th house.
And again, if they have a lot of really positive things, then they could have created this ideal marriage and partner that they manifested in a very positive way, very healthy way, in a very good way. So good for you.
Yeah. She's marrying like a guy who I consider like my brother. So
I love that.
It's pretty good.
I love that. And they have like a good marriage and all that.
They've been together for so long, and they just had second and third kid. They had twins.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's a good placement. That's a good one to have. So good points. Sensitive, responsive, needs a partner. This makes a good partner if they a lot of things are working really well in their chart. Challenging. It can be very easily swayed, open to disappointment. I mean, that's again because you easily swayed and easily just naive. This can be a very naive person dealing with people. I actually want to see what my old boss is in because she's one of the sweetest people on the planet. But I feel like I'm always like, and her daughter is really good. She's a Scorpio. She's a Pisces, and her daughter is a Scorpio. And her daughter is very like, no, mom. And she's like, she trusts her daughter. Like she knows her daughter has good intuition. And
Well,
so
that's nice that she was given a daughter that has good intuition if she doesn't necessarily have it.
Neptune in the 10th house. I mean, it's mostly to do with career things, so that makes sense. But
yeah.
So 7th house, just watch yourself if you find yourself. A good way to maybe tell if you have good or bad aspects is if you are constantly getting screwed over by people, business partners, or romantic partners, you might have some negative aspects. But if you find yourself in really good dealings with people, maybe you have really good aspects that really try and brighten up the illusion and make it kind of a reality ultimately. Because what we daydream and think of is really what shapes our reality, anyways. So back here to my little notes. The 8th house.
I love reading everything about the 8th house.
The 8th house is so dark and gloomy. It's such a witchy home. It's so nice to be there and like the moths and the black, cabin in the forest and the moonlight. It's all the beauty in the eyes of the beholder. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of 8th house placements, so.
Me neither.
I'm like, that's kind of works for me. So this one is sex, intimacy, shared finances. And shared finances a lot of times means you create abundance through other people. And I've had like some people ask me, like, what do you mean by shared finances? Like you benefit from other people's finances is ultimately what that means. Inheritance, taxes, loans, assets, property, joint ventures, goals, mystery, partner, and resources. So this is an area where when your Neptune is here, it can be very beneficial if, again, there's a lot of good aspects. Like when you think of death, it's not as heavy and hard on the soul as it is for someone who may not have the best aspects with this. So some people are so scared of death and they don't let their children go outside because they're like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. That's an extreme way of thinking, but it's an illusion. It's an illusion. I mean, yes, death can happen. It's going to happen. That's inevitable. Death is going to happen. Like I want to tell those people, I hate to break this to you, but it is going to, like, so you might as well go outside and enjoy it. I'm going to share a story about a friend. I know that she's not watching this because she probably doesn't own a computer. Way older lady. She had her daughter. Actually, it's her niece. Anyways, she had 5 kids. And I don't know what happened in her life or what. I truly believe that there's a very real fear. And I know that she was a Libra. All 5 of her kids died. One of them died in a house fire. Actually, 3 of them died in house fires, 2 of them in the same fire, but one completely different. Now that in itself, I'm like, statistically, that's like crazy that you lose 3 kids in 2 different house fires. One has a heart attack at a very young age, and one, a car falls on him when he's working under a jet. I don't know what her Neptune is in, but that is a pure example of living in fear and creating and manifesting weird shit from so much fear. I would guarantee there's a lot of aspects in her chart that were heavily influenced by death, maybe a lot of 8th house placements, but to create, and not that obviously never in a million years would I say she meant to create that. She didn't know it, but she was so scared. She lived in such fear, uncertainty, that I do think that she manifested that fear into reality and lost all 5 of her children in very different ways at very different times. And that just shows you how strong your thoughts, your emotions, how heavily they impact your entire life. And this 8th house, if you find yourself running into like loss a lot, I mean, tap into that, look into that. Like, why are you constantly thinking about that, or not necessarily daydreaming about it, but fear drives imagination too. Like it may not be daydreaming, it could be like you're literally sitting there planning out like, oh my god, if this happened or if this happened, like that's technically daydreaming or like, what is that called? Like anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, but it grows and it festers and eventually it manifests. So, but with that being said, this is also a placement of really heavy intuition. You know things. This is someone that really can just like feel things and know things that are about to happen before they happen. So when you have that fear and then you have like that you're correct a lot of the time, it's kind of like, well, you felt like this was going to happen in the past. Now you know it's going to happen because you felt it happen in the past. Like it's like confirmed at that point.
Yeah.
And so be careful with that to be like, my intuition's always right. And then you get a little inkling that something bad's going to happen. Well, you may be a strong manifester. And because it's happened, it's like heightened. And so now you are creating things. So it's great, but it also can be something really powerful and negative if you're not aware. I hope that resonates with some people. That may not have made sense for a lot of people, but those who get that, sit with it and really try to work through that.
It was a good introduction to like quantum time jumping.
I know. Next time on the pod, you guys, we'll get to that at some point. But
I'm here for it.
now we're moving into science. Quantum physics, I find very fascinating. So
Me too. I'm here for it.
I love it. All right, 9th house. So just to reiterate, this is the house of travel, wisdom, philosophy, higher education, law and religion, cross-culture relations, learning, ethics. So when you have the illusion in, this one's funny to me. When you have the illusion in philosophy, it really creates, for me, when I see someone like talking about something, that I love that they're into it, and I love that, you know, they really truly believe it. But I'm like, that just doesn't register in my brain. Like, I just don't, you know, like, I believe anything is real, right? Like, I believe aliens are real. I believe in astrology, clearly. I believe in things that you can't see, and I'm fine with that. Very abstract, abstract ideas and things. I'm here for that. There's some things that I'm like, I just don't. I don't know. It's harder for me to get with, and I'm trying to think of an example of something because I believe in like ultimately everything. But there's some people that are like, I mean, I respect Christianity. I want to say this. I want to say I respect it. But when people come to me and they're like, no, this is the truth, I am heavily like, that is your truth. That's not my truth. That's your truth, and I respect that. Like, but it's just one of those things. Like, I don't understand how people are so consumed with it. For me personally, I just don't understand it. And that's just one of the examples. There's a lot of things that people are so like, they read and they go down the rabbit hole of things. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't, I was there. And I didn't have that perspective on it, you know? And they're like, no, this is what happened. So anyways, it's just a very easily illusion when it comes to like philosophy or learning the way that you really connect to things on a learning level. It can be spirituality, like occults, when I see cults that really go heavy into what they believe and this is how it has to be, to me it's very skewed. The illusion is very deceiving, I guess, you know. Like, I just feel like this is an easy placement for somebody who can be, you know, join a cult very easily because they're so religion and spirituality, and you know, if someone tells you can or can't do something, this is why, it's like they grasp to that illusion and they run with it. So this is kind of that area, but it also can be very idealistic, a visionary, people that can really think about like, if they have a lot of really good things in their chart that really try in this aspect, it can make them very prosperous in their ideas, like the way they imagine things, they're open to things. It really connects that more than, you know, leading into a cult. But that's just one of the examples that I had. Travel, you can have this illusion of like traveling, like you're going to travel and do all these things, but then once you get to wherever you're going, you're like, oh, this is not what I thought at all. But you know, we've all been there, right? Like, we go to some, like, I love New Orleans. I had an idea about New Orleans. I had an idea, and I was like, this is going to be, you know, so exciting. And I go there, and I'm like, and it's not super long after Hurricane Katrina too, and the morale was all time low, and it was just very heavy and very dark. And I mean, mine's not in the ninth house, but this is an example of like what it's like when you have an idea of somewhere and you get there and you're like, it's not what I expected at all. So it's just kind of that energy.
I wanted to say a side note. I heard somebody reference the Bible as the Carpenter's Guide to the Galaxy. And it will never be known as the Bible ever again for me.
And we respect it because a lot of people, or so many people out there that are like, astrology, just give me some white chick with a nose ring and let her tell me. It's a joke. It's funny. Now we put there's some jokes in there, Well, I get it, like it's not your thing, and I respect that. That's why I always respect religion. Like the Mormon culture, I find it very fascinating, the things that they come up with, because I'll never understand not being able to drink coffee but having soda. I'll never understand that, but that's okay. I respect that's your belief, because I get it. It's alter changing. I'm like, the coffee thing makes sense. I could see that, but then to drink a Mountain Dew.
Right.
No, I did, but that's where
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense for me. But that's not my thing to get, so that's fine. She's like, moving on to the 10th. We're getting out of this. No,
we already got our first sort of hate, and I was like, oh, we've arrived. And it was, oddly enough, it was on the Sagittarius video, and I'm like, oh, if you hated that one, don't watch Leo and Virgo.
If you're offended easily, this is not for you. No, I truly do respect. I want to say that I truly respect all religions. There's things I don't get in religion. I'm sure there's a lot of things in astrology. People are like, that makes no fucking sense, and I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right.
But it does.
I can see your point, because you believe it. When they believe one religious things, it doesn't correlate, and then it gets confusing. I get that. Okay, 10th house. So, to reiterate, this is the house of career, long-term goals, structure, status, reputation, public role, masculinity, men, fathers, experts, fame, public role. So I feel like there are a ton of celebrities out there who are young, and they're well-driven, and they're like, yes, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be an actor, actress. Are they even different anymore? Did they change that? It used to be actor. And actor. Now I think everyone's an actor. I don't know how it works. But anyways, so they get there, and then they're in fame, and they're like, the money's great, but then they literally can't pick their nose in public, or they can't, if they have a bad day, they're like, oh dang, or they look pregnant or whatever. I think that there's this real reality of okay, I thought this would be cool. In my illusion of things, being very known seemed kind of cool, but it really kind of sucks if I just need some downtime, because we have our good time when we're up, and people look at us but when we want to be left the fuck alone, especially for the Pisces out there, I feel really bad for Pisces that go into fame. Oh, by the way, speaking of Pisces and fame, have you seen a picture of Justin Bieber lately?
No.
He looks a little wrecked. So Google recent pictures of Justin Bieber. This is a perfect example. He was not expecting fame on that day, and it shows. And that's okay, because that's real life. I have days where I definitely do not need to be seen. We all do. So I think this is that illusion. 10th house is all about public role and appearance, and that's great when you're good, but there are days that you're bad, and depending on if you have a lot of really good aspects, maybe they don't catch you on your bad days. Maybe you're just lucking that. Maybe your Jupiter really trines and you got good luck, and it's or you have enough money to pay the people off to not post it. I think that's what the Kardashians do. They're do not do that. You post that, you're getting sued. I mean, it's a big deal. So they have that luxury. I think they probably have a lot of things that really are beneficial there. And maybe you don't. Maybe you get caught out. I don't know, Britney Spears. She's been caught in some really heavy moments, and that's just a good indication that she probably doesn't have that protection. She's also very naive. I'm very curious to see what her Neptune is. Now that I've said that, I'll next time stay tuned. But but it also can be very good. You can be very intuitive this is also career. So, you might be very lucky in your career, depending on your aspects of your chart, this could be a very thriving. You could trust your gut on business decisions. You can pick really good business partners. Whereas if you have challenging aspects, it could be the opposite. You could run into a lot of hurdles. It might be really hard and difficult. What your illusion is at the top, and then you get there, it's not as beneficial, or it just seems different than what you imagined it to be. So, this one is pretty broad on the things from fame to career, heavily influenced. I mean, it's a good house to have it in if you have a lot of really good aspects, but if you don't, it can be very challenging, especially in the career or fame kind of public role, how people see you. And even people can see you as different than what you are. Like, you may want to portray that you're this, but you always come off as something different if your aspects aren't heavily placed in like a positive aspects. All right, 11th house. So if your Neptune is in the 11th house, we're just kind of recapping all of what the house represents: groups, friends, social awareness, humanitarianism, technology, hopes and wishes, and the future. My people are upstairs, so it was loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that. So all is well.
Not bad.
Okay. So when your Neptune is in the 11th house, this can be, again, depending on other aspects, you can be very independent and you can stand strong in that. Or you could also sometimes feel like an outsider. That can go either way, depending on the aspects in your chart. This is kind of the illusion of sometimes friendships. You see a lot of people that, trust people or think they have good intentions for their friendship and they don't. And so sometimes when, if you really think about it, like when you're younger and you have really good friends and then they betray you, you start to create this idea that people betray you. You start to create these illusions that like, oh, people aren't real, because you've experienced at a young age, or it could be parents too. It could be a community of people. For me, it's the police, but for anyone, I witness things at a young age where I'm like, I don't have a lot of faith there. But so especially with friends, this is a heavy placement for like groups of people or friends. And so when that kind of plays in your brain, you can create this narrative that you don't trust people, and that people, untrustworthy people, start to enter your life. So, Neptune, I've talked a lot this whole time about manifesting. It is a huge manifester because it's where your fantasy lies. It's where your thoughts, especially if you have a really good Mercury, Neptune, where it, really thrives, a good aspect, then this could be great for like manifesting. But if you don't, it can be very challenging. And especially in this house, because the more you think people are out to get you because of your earlier experiences, the more they will be out to get you. So if you find yourself with Neptune in the 11th house and you find that you keep attracting really shitty people, this probably generated or derived from a younger you, like what you experienced, and you keep like thinking about it. You keep like, oh, this person screwed me over, and it keeps coming back to you. So really work on like separating that. Like, just because this person did something and this person did something doesn't mean that everyone is going to do that. And so that's just kind of a heavier, if you have heavier things in your chart that kind of make you feel that way about people. Again, this is one of those things that are just coming to me intuitively. So somebody maybe needs to hear this. And so, but yeah, so just make sure that you're really aware of that. The offset of this, if you have positive things, like you attract great people, you attract positive people, you put yourself in the right groups to create probably a change in society. And so that's something that you have. If you have Neptune in the 11th house, it can be very positive. Helping others, that's really going to fuel your imagination, make you feel better about yourself, make you maybe even manifest or daydream, or even heighten your intuition. So it's not a super intuitive placement, but you can heighten that with certain aspects in your chart that can kind of highlight that. So I need to look into why every time I do this, at the end, so like we get to the 11th house and I instantly start like draining. Like, am I just trying too much? Like, what is that about? Like, it's very annoying. Okay, 12th house. This is of endings, healing, closure, spirituality, solitude, karma, old age, afterlife, what's hidden, limiting beliefs, and the subconscious. This one is probably, honestly, my least favorite Neptune placement because the subconscious is already hidden and it's already so far back. And then when you have intuition and daydreaming, it's almost like um, very confused. It's a very confusing person. They're very confused. They're very naive. I mean, you can have things in your chart that really change that and shift that for you, and great for you if you do. But if you have even just like not good aspects or mediocre aspects, this one is going to be a very hazy idea of life, very, very cloudy. I feel like this person goes through the most harshly. Like, I mean, depends on your Saturn, but this is a placement for somebody who really and I don't even want to say trust because I think that things happen to this particular placement early on, and it really, like a lot of things, and then it really shapes their adulthood. And so it kind of goes into that 11th house, how I was saying, like the friends, this is kind of everything. This is like, death, life, subconscious, hidden things, secrets. There's a lot of things that you might be very secretive because maybe you've expressed yourself about something and then that blew up in your face at some point. So this one is very difficult in the terms of when your Neptune is in the 12th house. Neptune is already an illusion. The 12th house is already an illusion. I mean, it's ruled by Pisces, and it just really makes you more susceptible to a lot of things. Like, it's almost like you're these people like to go and be hermits because so many things have happened. And so when I see this placement, I instantly just want to be like, I'm so sorry. Let's talk about this. I don't know what you chose in this life to really go through, but here you are. There's a reason for it, and try to help them see the most positive outcomes to the things that they've gone through. And that's hard. Like, okay, your mother dies. Like, what positive thing comes from that? But there are, and it teaches you how to, grieve and how to do those things. Like, I know people that have never grieved a loss in their life, and they've never gone through any sort of trauma. And I'm going to tell you, like, their characters are a little not my favorite. I mean, you got to go through shit, and that's what makes you you. So I always try to help this person see and have that perspective that not everything is doom and gloom. They're also very intuitive. This is like the hot spot for intuition. So like, if someone walks up to you and they had one bad thought when they were 7, you felt that, and now you know, and you can't trust them. So I'm sorry, that just sucks. Like, to be that intuitive and pull that from people. It's like, there could be really good people, but you're like, no, I have a bad feeling about that person. But it could be something so far off. You feel it, but you don't understand like what's real, what's this person really is, or versus something they might have done, or that has nothing to do with you. They could be great for you, but maybe not for someone else. Whatever that is. But it's a hard placement. Not my favorite. My least favorite, actually.
That sounds like a challenging one.
Oh yeah, I would say this one and the 8th one, the 6th one too, 6th house. But I mean, those are ultimately challenging stations, houses anyway. So it's going to be, when you have those heavily placed, you are going to have challenges. But your soul chose that for this life, so I think that's what we really should tap into. Like, what am I learning? What am I gaining from this? Yeah. And use that at your advantage. Oh man, we are an hour and I still have aspects. I kind of did go through the aspects though, really throughout the whole thing, and I should have considered that we were doing this at the end. I forgot. But Neptune and the Sun, and I'll just kind of read briefly through these and just kind of touch on anything that I think of. Good imagination, artistic, and that's Neptune, imagination with who you are. You can daydream these things. You can think about things in a very clear. It's not as cloudy. Maybe it's cloudy, but it's like slightly not as heavy. The adverse aspects could be vagueness of mind, unbalanced emotions, and they can be deceived very easily. And then if they're conjunction, if they're in the same, powerful artistic expression, fine aesthetic taste, and psychic abilities.
It's fine.
I'm telling you guys, my face is now draining. It's like every time I get to the end, I'm like, it's really gross. Neptune in the moon, very positive imagination, powerful imagination, but also positive because Neptune and the moon and how you feel and emotions are. I feel like this is when they trine, it's really good because emotionally, it really does help you manifest. It helps you create great things. Artistic and then challenging can be a dreamer, which we all know like a dreamer is really cool, but like if you don't have like the reality aspect of being a dreamer, like you have to have both. If you're too much of a dreamer, you can be homeless in a week from daydreaming of the things you want to do, but no action, it doesn't work. So that can be a bad thing. Delusional is very, very heavy thing here because how you are emotionally, and if you have a square to your Neptune, it can be very confusing, which makes you ultimately delusional, which you're not really able to form a real concrete like idea of something because it's so like hazy and it doesn't really jive well together. Conjunction makes you sympathetic, warm-hearted, and I would say seclusion possibly. I mean, yes, I could see because Neptune is kind of a loner and the moon is internal, so I could see like it possibly making you maybe on your own more, prefer alone time. Probably a night owl with this displacement for sure. So
That makes sense.
Neptune and Mercury. This one I love because it's creativity. This is like communicator of, communicating. And even through communication, think about it like clairvoyant is one of them, but it's like you can connect to the spiritual world. And what better way to connect and talk about it? So it's a really good aspect for somebody who does like mediums and things like that. So this is great work for that. If they're, squared, then naive, hazy thinking. Neptune to me is just all around hazy. So it's like if your Neptune and your Mercury don't really connect and don't they square each other, it can be very difficult to process your thoughts and express them to others. And then if they're conjunction, impulsive personality, but powerfully creative. Yeah, I mean, this is how you think and how you speak. You're probably really good at poetry. I mean, this would be like, I think of like a true poet, like really strong, like you can just come off, with the words or someone who maybe like raps or like freelances or whatever, freestyle, not freelances, but freestyle, like rap. This is like someone who can really pull the information and like speak it. And it's kind of like a really good aspect to have if you're a rapper. Eminem, we're going to check his aspects. And then Venus, when your Neptune and Venus align and they work really well together, we have heightened creativity, but it also can give you a very beautiful appearance. Neptune, how you perceive yourself, and especially this goes way when you're young, how you view yourself and how you think of yourself, and in the terms of beauty, Venus being all about beauty, I think it can create a very like attractive person, a very beautiful face. If it is the opposite, you have square, you might be someone who attracts a lot of negative relationships. And not that it so much affects your physical appearance, but it could. I mean, this is somebody that maybe just sees themselves as gross. I mean, you hear that. Megan Fox to me is like the perfect example of someone of like she has body dysphoria and she doesn't feel beautiful. And I'm like, girl, like you're one of the most beautiful women on the planet. What do you mean? And then I go to like, but you take all these pictures and you take all these like she's like my body, and I'm like, but you're like you don't have a lot of clothes on them. So then my mind's like, well, why is that? And someone was explaining to me like, you don't understand body dysphoria. Like you don't understand. Yeah, she's doing that. She makes money at that, but she's not comfortable doing it. She doesn't feel good about doing it. I'm like, oh, okay. I've opened my eyes because I'm like, are you gonna say you don't like your body, but like all your pictures are in like swimsuits? Like that makes no sense. But that's because I didn't understand it. Once it was explained a little different, I was like, okay, I get that. That makes sense. So this is kind of that. Like this is more like she's beautiful. I'm not saying it makes her ugly. I'm not saying she's ugly because she's gorgeous, but she has this idea of herself in a way that's not beautiful, and that's a Neptune square Venus kind of aspect. I mean, it could be other things, but to me, that's what when I hear that, that's what I think of. And then if they conjunct, this one is like, I feel like your imagination, your daydream, your intuition, all of that rolled into Venus of love and pleasure. I feel like it really makes you a sensual person. It makes you kind to others, artistic, um, nervous tension. It's in there. I'm not really sure how that, but I mean, I guess with Neptune, if you have an idea and all these things, it can be too much pleasure, too much something, and that can create that. And then delusional and love affairs. That makes sense because you think that like, oh, this person loves me or this person this, and it's like that's just that's not it. All right, it's Neptune and Mars. Creative impulse. These people take action. It normally works out for them really well, even if it's like makes no sense and they're like, oh my gosh, like how did you manage to pull that out of your hat? Like I was gonna say something else, but I said hat. But you guys should be proud.
Why censor yourself now?
I know. Now I clean up my act. But no, it's like this is like a very fortunate when it comes to like the way you do things and it working out and it just being like, oh, okay, well that didn't make any sense, and the person just kind of the intuition flows and the way you take action is very in a positive way. Whereas if it's squares, it's kind of the opposite of that. Like you do things and it's like that should have worked, but it didn't. So it's like you're not aligned with like your intuition or your imagination of how you act on things, and then a lot of times it ends badly. So that's unfortunate for you, but I mean you can evolve and work through those things. And then if they conjunct their highly artistic gifts, very romantic, passionate person, and that just kind of their illusion or their thoughts of like what sex is and what love is and passion is very probably out there. I mean, really, it depends on younger years and kind of what they've gone through that really shapes that for them, and also their chart. But I could see this being a person that's very eccentric and just very romantic and very passionate, and what they expect is kind of out there, eccentric, depending on what they've gone through. All right, Neptune and Jupiter. When you have Neptune, this illusion, and Jupiter that really work together, it's fortunate, it's luck. So this makes this person kind, humanitarian instincts. They're drawn to spiritual concerns. They're probably a very talented person. They probably thrive in whatever it is that they're doing, and the thoughts and the ideas that they come up with. As a little kid, they were really good at manifesting their life and it becoming something more than what they probably could have dreamed, because Jupiter is expansive, it's more. So if you have the opposite of that, then things don't work out as well for you. You have an imagination or things or thoughts that you think should happen, and it doesn't happen. So with time, when that gets torn down, it creates a weak and easily manipulated person, because they aren't as strong in their beliefs. They haven't been as fortunate. Things have happened that create doubt, and that kind of shows in this aspect. And then if they conjunct, they can be sensitive, artistic, active, fantasy life, very active fantasy life. They are very telepathic. They can, tune into like a lot of different spiritual realms. So it's kind of it's a good one when they're conjunct, because then they really thrive together and they really work together, and it pulls like a very intuitive personality or gift. Neptune and Saturn. Saturn is such a like when you have a good aspect for your Neptune and Saturn, though, it makes you a cautious person. Like some things may have happened, but you took really well to those lessons, and you now are a little more careful. I wouldn't even say this is a good aspect. I mean, I think it's a practical one. It makes you practical. you're
That's
way
what I have.
oh,
I'm like the most practical.
so yeah, you're like, this is, the room for imagination is not quite so vivid. Now, if you have a very harsh aspect, this makes you really not trust anyone, want to go outside, live life, like you stay in bed and probably take pills to cope. I'm just gonna say it. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, life is hard. Yeah, life is marked by disappointment. See, it is like you just never catch a break. And so when you have a hard aspect here, depending on other things in your chart, like you might have this and you might have so much that goes on in your chart that takes over precedence of this. So that could happen. But if it's not, then this is just a hard aspect. And I'm sorry. But it will, I can't even say it'll get better. You will evolve and it will, make sense at some point in your life. When it's conjunct, it is hardworking and authoritative, which, I mean, it's kind of that placement of somebody who has like too much authority that shouldn't. Like, I'm not going to say it, but there's just people out there that think that they're above others because of their position, and that is an illusion. But it is how something brought them there. So it can combine idealism with practicality, which is great when you have Neptune and Saturn. It's the same. It can be very easy. It's just easy. That's the best way to say it. There's not a lot of challenges there.
Must be nice.
I know. Neptune and Uranus, kindness, sensitivity, intuitive, very mystical and just spiritual. It's like all those things. Like again, I talk about Luna in Harry Potter a lot because I just love her, and I just think that this is kind of a place for her. She's just very sweet, and she's so intuitive, and she's like, okay with living in a fantasy world. I think she just walks around with like no real given purpose, in my opinion, but it works for her, and that's fine. It's like, what is it? Oblivion is bliss or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that kind of. This is best description of that. So if it's an aspect, the aspect, it can be very challenging, suspicious, very paranoid nature. This is a very good placement for somebody who's paranoid. I'm going to recommend that if you have this placement, you should definitely not ever do I guess cannabis sometimes causes paranoia. You might want to look into this if you are a partaker in cannabis and every time you smoke or partake, you find yourself paranoid. Let's check out your placements. I'd be curious. So let me know. I was gonna say don't do meth, but then I was like, cannabis has the same aspect.
But also just don't do meth.
Don't do meth. All around.
Yeah.
And then conjunction, hardworking, authoritative, an excellent aspect that combines idealism with practicality. Did we? Oh, I think that was the same as the last one. That's what threw me off. I was like, wait. But no, you're good. I'm the one that's supposed to check these. I did check them, but maybe I didn't make it this far. Too many glasses of wine once I get to the end of the slide.
Yeah, mine's usually too much weed.
So when they conjunct, your daydream, your illusion, and your intuition, again, is very heightened. It's very strong. It can be very, very beneficial in the sense of they work well together. So it's not a benefit. Not that it's not a challenging placement.
Yeah.
Neptune and Pluto, very, I would say, when they are working well together, what you go through in life and how you perceive it is beneficial. You see things as a positive and you work through it. If it's not, it can be the opposite. I mean, you can have very challenging with the events that happen throughout your lifetime. You have a really hard time with it. It creates illusion in a negative way. It's like, doomsday, the world's coming to an end. And I know that we have a lot of things going on always, because the news is always telling us what's about to happen or die or it's about to break out. And when you get fixated on that, watch your placements here with where your Neptune is, because you will start to create that illusion. And again, through time, that will evolve into manifestation. So just then if they conjunct, then it's a gifts of really communicating to other spiritual realms, because it taps into things, and Pluto's out there, so good for intuition, good for someone, a psychic or somebody who can read minds, or like tarot readers, things like that. This is a good placement for that. And I'm so sorry, I went over 15 minutes. I really was trying to talk as fast as I could.
You had really good messages for everyone today, though. That was nice.
Yeah. Somebody needed to hear something today.
Yeah, you were straight up channeling this morning. I love it.
It's Bob Marley back here, truly. I truly think that it all comes from Bob Marley Buster.
I love it. Well, thank you, Elle. Thank you, everyone watching. Thank you, Megan. And we will see you guys next Tuesday with Pluto.